it's Ian from RTO here. Welcome to another Battle of the Debuts, where we put two bands from the same sort of genre, look at their debut albums, pull them apart, and see which band was the better, and then you guys have a vote on who you think made the better debut album. So today we've got two sort of they're British bands, soul pop bands formed in the 80s, one being Simply Red and the other being Wet Wet Wet. And as usual, the band that brought their album out first comes up first, and in this case that's Simply Red. Now Simply Red were formed in Manchester in 1985 by lead singer Mick Hucknall. And they've had lots of people in the band, and by the time they disbanded in 2010, he was the only original left. They released their first album in 1985, and they've had 10 songs to reach the top 10 in the UK singles, number 1 on the US Billboard, 5 albums at number 1 in the UK. They've won Brit Awards for Best New Artist, Grammy Awards, so they're pretty good. They reformed in 2015, and overall they have sold over 50 million albums. Not a bad career, is it? So let's have a look at their debut album, which was Picture Book. Iconic cover as well, a picture of Mick Hucknall. It was released in October 1985, and it done some singles, etc, etc. So who was in the band at the time? Well, Mick Hucknall was lead and backing vocals and acoustic guitar. Fritz McIntyre was keyboards and backing vocals. Kim Kellett was on the keyboards and trumpet. Sylvian Richardson was on the guitars. Tony Bowers played the bass. Chris Joyce was on the drums. We had some guests on here, quite a few. David Fryman on guitars. Ronnie Ross on baritone saxophone. Ian Dickerson on the saxophone on the tenor side. Francis Foster was on congas, and the album was produced by Stuart Levine. So, first track on here is called Come to My Aid. What a good opener this is. Mick Hucknall has got one of these wonderful soulful voices, crisp, and I love Sylvian's guitar work on that. Really good track. Then we get Same Old Red, which is one of my favourite songs by Simply Red. I've got a greatest hits album, and which is enough. Let's say it's the best of, one of these double album compilations, and that's fine by me. But having listened to this album, I found some really good tracks. Same Old Red. I've always liked this song. My stepmom was into Simply Red. Yeah, trendy stepmom I had. And it's a great track. It's one of them jazzy, bluesy sort of things, sort of thing you'd expect in a speakeasy bar with the smoke and the atmosphere and the big microphones. It's a great track, my favourite track on there. Look At You Now. I'm not keen on this one. It's not my sort of thing. I can take so much of this band, and that is one I don't like. Then they do a cover of a Talking Heads track, Heaven. It is a really good version of it. It's a little bit more poppy than the Talking Heads version, of course, but I think it's a very, very good cover, and I do like that. Then we get Jericho. Not a fan of this one. It's too sort of 80s wishy-washy soul, and I'm not too keen on that. I like proper soul music. I'm getting into some really good soul, thanks to Craig. You know who you are. Okay, then we get the hit, Money's Too Tight to Mention. Good track. I've always liked this song. Uh, good track for them. Like the next one, Holding Back the Years. I think this one got to #1 in America. Didn't do over here, but it's a fantastic vocal from Mick. It's really good. Sounds wonderful. I love this track. It's just one of the best tracks on the album. Then we get Open Up the Red Box. Sorry, I like this track. It's got a nice funky groove. The bass line's really good, and I love the harmonies on this. It's really strong harmonies. Then we get No Direction. This is a little bit disjointed for me. Not the best song on the album. Picture Book, the title track. Sorry. Another great bass line here from Tony Bowers. The drumming's good on here. It's a hollow sound, but it gives it atmosphere. And the trumpet on here sounds wonderful. Very, very good song. That was the last track. What do I think of this album? No, I don't mind Simply Red. But this is really good. I do like Mick Hucknall as a singer. I think he's got a great voice. This is a pretty good album. I've sort of added it into my Spotify library now because I think it's just a really cool album. And considering this was done in 1985, I think they got the mix right. Really good. So that's what I thought. So let's have a look what the critics thought. So we're going to start from the critic from the Village Voice, our good friend Mr. Robert Christgau. And he's up to his usual tricks. He says there's only 2 songs on this album, Money's Too Tight and Heaven. But the band carried off with the only tracks they carry off with Mood and Groove. He didn't have to talk some rubbish at times. And then the next one I thought is a review of the 1996 re-release from Q. And Nick Durden described Picture Book as the most accomplished debut of its year. He said of Hucknall, with most prodigious voice on the side of Motown and a burning socialist heart, here he infuses everything with a passion that is rarely matched since. William Ruhlman, in retrospective review of All Music, felt that Simply Red produced a steady R&B groove reminiscent of the 1960s Stax house bands and the MGs, and that Hucknall was a big voice soul singer. So let's have a look at the review scores. All Music gave it 4.5. Encyclopedia of Popular Music gave it 4. Q gave it 4. And old Christian gave it a B+. Yeah, only he would. So how did it do in the weekly charts? Well, it did well all over the world, to be quite honest. It was top 10 in Australia, number 6. Canada got to number 7. Number 1 in Holland, number 8 in Italy, number 9 in New Zealand. Over here in the good old UK, it got to number 2. And most importantly, it got top 20 in the US, which is pretty cool for a Brit band. Big seller generally. Got platinum in America, which is pretty cool. 5 times platinum here. Platinum in Switzerland and New Zealand and Netherlands and Australia. So it was a well-received album, and it's still a very popular album, I think. So let's have a look at the nuts and bolts of Picture Book. Song quality. There's some really good songs on here. They wrote quality songs, and they always have. Every album they have put out, there are some gems. So I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. Production, wonderfully produced. It's crisp, it's clear, everything sounds good. Stuart Levine did a great job on this album. So I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5 as well. Reception. went down very well. I remember this coming out, and for someone that at the time was listening to lots of hair metal and thrash metal and all sorts of metal, for me to prick my ears up on this, yeah, even made an impact on me, who likes most music. And it was a big seller. I was on top of the pops a lot and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. Because it did go down a storm, and you know, as I said, it went platinum, and in other countries it went gold. So it was sold a box full, as they say. Cover design, a reception 5 out of 5. I don't know if I've said that. Cover design, I like this cover. It's a very iconic 80s cover. You know who it is straight away. So I'm going to give that 5 out of 5. So for Picture Book by Simply Red, gives us a total of 18 out of 20. So let's move on to the next contender. Now this is a band called Wet Wet Wet, who go down as a Scottish soft rock. Well, I've never really liked that term, soft rock. They were formed in 1982. And of course they're best known for the cover of the Trogs' Love Is All Around, which was used in 4 weddings and a funeral. What I liked about Marty Pellow, pulled it because he'd had enough of it, and rightly so. I mean, it spent 15 weeks at the top. Big #1 for them, but they've sort of been going, they've sort of split up. Marty Pellow's no longer with them, but they're still going. And they've won awards. They were Best British Newcomer in 1988 at the Brit Awards. So their debut album is called Popped In Sold Out. And it came out in 1987. And on here, it's featured Marty Pellow on vocals, Graham Clark on the bass, Neil Mitchell on synthesizers, Tony Cunningham on the drums, and Graham Duffin on guitars. And it was produced by the band themselves, Michael Baker and Wolf Smarties. I like that name. Okay, the first track on here, it was a big hit for them, Wishing I Was Lucky. Some really nice harmonies on here. It's a very dated song now. You can tell it's straight out of the 80s. But very big hit for them. Then we got East of the River. It's okay. Doesn't rattle my cage, I'm afraid. Yeah, not a very good song. I remember, I don't know if they're trying to sound like Spandau Ballet or Marty Pellow thinks he's Tony Hadley. It's not a bad song though, but it does sound very Spandau Ballet. Then we got Angel Eyes, Home and Away, another big hit for them. It's not too bad. Then we get Sweet Little Mystery. I like this track for some reason. It's the best song on the album. It's quite upbeat and it's got some great singing on it. They could all sing, which was pretty good. I don't believe Sonny's Letter. It's alright. Temptation again. I've heard worse songs, but there's some really nice harmonies on this, so I'll give them that. I Can Give You Everything. It sounds like a lot of the other songs. There's no individuality on that. It's just very plastic, very boring. That's one way to describe it. The Moment You Left Me, it's not too bad. Nice tune, catchy vocals and words. Words of Wisdom is just flat as a pancake. There's no depth in this, no structure. It's just very simple, but doesn't do anything for me. Then we got Don't Let Me Be Lonely Tonight. Not a very good version of this Jax Taylor song. not very good. And then World in another, flat, not very memorable for me. What do I think of this album? Well, in my opinion, the only really good tracks on here are the singles. The rest sound very same. No depth, no individuality, and no variation. And not very memorable. They did get better. Some of their other hits and a little bit more stylish, but it didn't have the same impact as Simply Red for me. Now, Popped in Sold Out, there's not many reviews about it really. I did find this one, and this was done by Sharon Mora, and it says the new blue-eyed soul band with sophisticated sound and 2 hit singles are already under their belts released their debut album. Most of the songs are mid-tempo. The 4th single, Temptation, was a ballad, as I said, like Spandau Ballet. Many of the songs, despite being filled with horns and strings reminiscent of Phil Collins, lacked a distinctive melody, and most of the tracks are not including most of the tracks released as singles. This album appeared crammed and rather too much filler. Yeah, I sort of tend to agree with that. Let's have a look at the scores on the Doors. All Music gave it a 3.5. Number One gave it a 1. Record Mirror 2. How did it do in the charts? It got to number 1 here in the UK, 123 in America, Australia 67, New Zealand number 6. It went 5 times platinum here in the UK and gold in New Zealand and Netherlands. So let's have a look at the nuts and bolts. Song quality. I'd say the 3 singles are great, but the rest are not inspirational, or they don't hook you in. So I shall give that a 3 out of 5. Production. I think it's very good production. The production on the album is pretty good. All the harmonies sound really good, which I do like. So I shall give production a 4 out of 5. Reception. Although it got number 1 over here and it was very popular over here, it didn't have the worldwide success that they went on to get. So I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. Cover design. It's got the band on the front, but I think all the name of the album and the band sort of get lost in that purple a little bit. But it's a good photo of the band, so I'll give it a 3 out of 5. So for Popped in Sold Out gives us a total of 13 out of 20. So the points do say that it was a big win for Simply Red. So after I look at, I'll just have a quick summarise of the 2 albums. Both very successful over in UK. They were very successful bands. But when it came to this debut, I think Simply Red, they hit the ground running. Although Wet 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 had top 10 singles and they were very popular, Simply Red were having top 10 singles and selling the album. Big album for a debut album. So I'm going to give it today to Simply Red, because out of the 2 albums I prefer the Simply Red. So that's my opinion. But what do you guys think? You know the drill now. That's going to be in the community. The poll in the community. There'll be a poll on live stream tonight, or just put your what one you prefer in the comments on whatever social media platform that you watch this on, because it all goes towards the count, and it'll be announced next Thursday on the live stream. So that's all for this week. Next week is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do a twist on the tail of this, and it's another request from one of you guys. Someone suggested, can we do debut live albums? And that's what we're going to do for the month of May. We're going to do some battles of live debut albums, which I'm looking forward to because I've put some real good ones together for you. I'll be back later with it's pick and mix, and this week it's in the camera's view, and we're going to look at the VHS app concert by Yes 9012 live. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'll see you later. Bye for now.